From the annual family road trip to the weekly Costco run and even the soccer game carpool, minivans have played a vital role in the transportation of millions of American families for the last few decades. These cookie-cutter mom-mobiles have been a family favorite everywhere since the 1980s when Chrysler decided to shake up a market that the station wagon had a stranglehold on for decades. A fuel crisis in the 70s and a couple recessions in the 80s left pretty much every American auto manufacturer in a tough financial position. Chrysler especially. By 1983, Chrysler was only barely surviving off a $1.5 billion loan from the federal government. They needed a vehicle that would sell and a vehicle that would sell good. Around this same time, Lee Iacocca, the executive responsible for the Ford Mustang, had recently taken over Chrysler. He had recently been fired from Ford for trying to push an idea for a smaller version of the Econoline van. So instead he took this idea to Chrysler, where they created the Dodge Caravan, a vehicle that had the body of a van placed on Chrysler's compact K-car chassis. The result was a vehicle that was spacious and practical like a van, but due to his compact car chassis and front-wheel drive drivetrain, it drove like a sedan and was able to fit in smaller parking spots and garage spaces. The practicality of the minivan made it really appealing to American families. It ate the station wagon's market share for breakfast and remained dominant on the American family vehicle market for over 2 decades afterwards, and still 40 years later remains one of the most popular family vehicles to buy. Proven by the fact that as of 2025, the only vehicle Chrysler sells new is the Pacifica. Fast forwarding about a decade and a half from the creation of the Dodge Caravan brings us to the topic of today's video, Kia's entry to the then booming minivan market, the Sedona. Welcome to Star Bit Garage. My name's David and today I'm going to be going over the history of the Kia Sedona. Does anyone besides me care about this obscure minivan? Probably not, but is that going to stop me from making this video? Also probably not. So if you like cars or just learning about cool stuff in general, be sure to hit the subscribe button. I got plenty of other cool stuff like this down the line. Kia had originally released the Sedona as the Carnival in South Korea in 1998, before making its way into the North American market in 2001 for the 2002 model year. At this point, Kia had only been selling vehicles in the North American market for about a decade, and in that time they had earned a reputation for cheap build quality and poor reliability. A reputation which Kia still seems to struggle to shake 25 years later. So in order to prove themselves as a worthwhile choice, Kia made the Sedona a minivan that offered incredible value, safety, and affordability compared to its more established competitors. A sentiment that clearly paid off as 2.5 decades later the Carnival goes toe-to-toe with market juggernauts like the Toyota Sienna and Honda Odyssey, despite the slow decline of the minivan in that time. But to understand how that happened, let's take a look at how the Sedona has changed over the last couple decades in order to remain so competitive in a dying minivan market. Alright, I got a little tangent for you guys here. It wasn't until researching for this video that I found out most minivans share platforms with sedans and other compact cars. I mean, it makes sense from a logical standpoint, but I just never connected the dots in my head. But I was on the Sedona's Wikipedia page and I saw it shared a platform with the Optima. And then when I was researching the history of the minivan and found out that the Caravan shared a platform with the K-cars, it kind of clicked in my brain. And like, that's the entire appeal of the minivan. It's got the insane practicality that you get in a truck or an SUV, but it drives like a sedan. If I'm being honest, that driving like a sedan has gotten me into trouble a time or two. And I guess if you think about it, a crossover is really a logical step in that same direction. It takes the SUVs, which have been popular as family vehicles since the 90s and 2000s, and puts it on that same sedan platform, and it looks like an SUV, feels like an SUV, drives like a sedan. I'm pretty much always going to argue in favor of minivans though. Dimensions wise, they don't have that much bigger of a footprint than a sedan or a crossover would if you really look into it, maybe a little bit bigger, but you have infinitely more practicality. I think with all the seats gone, this thing has like 130 cubic feet of storage space. Anyway, tangent over. I just thought that would be interesting to discuss. Let's get back to the video now. When the Sedona began its North American journey in 2002, it only came with one simple powertrain option. A Mitsubishi-derived 3.5-liter V6 engine making 195 horsepower and 218 pound-feet of torque, paired with a 5-speed automatic transmission and front-wheel drive. This powertrain gave the Sedona a slightly below industry average fuel economy of 15 miles a gallon in the city and 20 on the highway. The exterior of this van was nothing special. It blended in pretty well with most minivans of the time, albeit with a slightly narrower posture that made driving and parking a little bit easier. Also not impressive in the Sedona was the available luxury options and safety equipment that it offered. It lacked a lot of creature comforts its competitors had, things like power sliding doors and a stow-and-go third row. Also missing in the first generation of Sedona is standard side airbags and traction control. Not even anti-lock brakes came standard, but at least you could pay a little extra to get those. In spite of all of that, the Sedona somehow managed a 5 out of 5 NHTSA safety rating. Offsetting the lack of creature comforts was the Sedona's base price of $19,590, coming in at over $5,000 cheaper than the Toyota Sienna or the Honda Odyssey. In addition to this, every Sedona was offered with Kia's legendary 10-year, 100,000-mile powertrain warranty. The value and affordability offered made the first generation of Sedona, which ran from 2002 to 2005, a pretty big commercial success. And in spite of mixed reviews for quality control and reliability, the Sedona was one of Kia's best-selling vehicles in the North American market at the time. Now that their foot was in the door of the minivan market, Kia came in heavy with the changes for the second generation of the Sedona, which debuted at the 2005 Chicago Auto Show for the 2006 model year. The new Sedona was a vast improvement over the first generation in about every single way, featuring a brand new body with a longer wheelbase, as well as the all-new 3.8-liter Hyundai Lambda V6 motor that made 240 horsepower and 253 pound-feet of torque. Similar to the first generation, the new Sedona came with a 5-speed automatic transmission and front-wheel drive. Fuel economy also saw a slight improvement in the 2006 model year, achieving 17 miles a gallon city and 23 on the highway. This generation of Sedona is also rebadged as the Hyundai Entourage, a slightly upscale alternative to the Sedona between 2007 and 2009. The new Sedona remedied a lot of qualms people had with the previous one in regards to safety, now offering standard ABS, traction control, and side impact airbags. All this earned the Sedona the title of safest minivan of the 2006 model year, an honor which the Sedona kept all the way through 2009. Kia also decided to include much more luxury features in these new minivans, offering significantly more options like heated leather seats, power sliding doors and tailgate, a stow-and-go third row, in-dash navigation, backup cameras, rear parking sensors, and the family favorite backseat entertainment. These new features did bring up the base price of the Sedona to about $23,600, which still kept it competitive with other minivans in the market, but now offering similar feature sets. In 2011, the Sedona got a slight facelift, now featuring Kia's signature Tiger Nose grille, as well as a slightly smaller but more powerful 3.5-liter V6. In 2011, they also dropped the short wheelbase configuration due to poor sales. The second generation Sedona was a significant improvement in reliability as well over the first generation, and despite receiving glowing reviews from pretty much every outlet out there, it didn't sell quite as well as some of its other competitors. And in 2012, Kia announced that they would not be making a Sedona for the 2013 model year. But the Sedona did return 1 year later for one last model year of the second generation. With slipping sales in an already struggling minivan market, Kia knew they had to come back big in 2015 with the third generation. And boy did they. This new Sedona had a sleek, modern, SUV-inspired design, with an updated powertrain featuring a 3.3-liter Lambda 2 V6, making 276 horsepower and 248 pound-feet of torque, paired with standard 6-speed automatic transmission and front-wheel drive. The new Sedona brought this increase in power while still improving EPA estimated gas mileage to 18 miles a gallon in the city and 25 on the highway. Aside from the completely redesigned body and powertrain, the third generation Sedona offered a reimagined interior, which was a wild improvement over the outdated interiors of previous generations. It was a much more sleek and modern interior that felt more like a car or an SUV than a minivan. The technology offered also saw a wild improvement, now offering optional push-button start, dynamic backup camera, and a completely redesigned gauge cluster, which included a digital speedometer. The refreshed interior and exterior, paired with a much more comfortable suspension, made the Sedona feel much more premium than previous generations, while still coming in at a price of $26,000 for the base model, which was $2,000 less than the base Honda Odyssey or Toyota Sienna. It wasn't all sunshine and rainbows for the new Sedona, however. The first couple years of the third generation were plagued by issues with the GDI engine that they had, as well as some electrical issues in 2016. Fortunately, most of this was remedied by 2017, though. One thing that didn't get remedied for a while, however, was Kia's infamous security issue. Any Kia or Hyundai without push-button start made between 2011 and 2021, including the third generation Sedonas, lacked engine immobilizers, which made them remarkably easy to steal. This made those models very unappealing to many, and also incredibly difficult to insure. In spite of these issues, Kia kept pushing along through the third generation, which ran through 2021, making improvements on the way, like the addition of Apple CarPlay in 2017 and the 8-speed automatic transmission in 2019. And it paid off. The third generation Sedona is one of, if not the best-selling generation of Sedona to date. The fourth and current generation of Kia's minivan made its debut in 2021, dropping the Sedona nameplate and instead calling it the Carnival, which it had been known as internationally for some time. The new Carnival came with an again more modern body styling, as well as a refined 3.5-liter V6 that made an improved 290 horsepower and 262 pound-feet of torque. And this motor was paired with the 8-speed automatic and front-wheel drive. This new powertrain made a slight improvement to gas mileage, seeing 19 miles a gallon in the city and 26 on the highway. The biggest change by far on the new Carnival is on the interior. Kia had been making big moves regarding the interiors of their cars in recent years, and the Carnival was absolutely no exception. Featuring standard push-button start, remote start, and driver assistance like lane keep assist and blind spot monitors, the Carnival is now a premium and desirable family vehicle to many. And since 2022, Kia has kept improving the Carnival. Now in 2025, featuring an available hybrid powertrain, managing an impressive 34 miles a gallon in the city and 31 on the highway. With all of this, Kia is no longer positioning the Carnival as a value affordable minivan, leaving their line of crossovers and SUVs to fill that space for them. Whether the Carnival will be a long-term success remains to be seen, but Kia's moves are indicative of the direction the minivan market has taken over recent years. If you've made it this far in the video, that means you probably are interested in the topic matter, and I thank you for staying this long through the video. I invite you to tell me in the comments what topics you'd like to see me make videos on next. I have a few in mind, and any feedback you have for the video is greatly appreciated. I'm still rather new at making these, so any feedback helps. Thank you.